Ada scrolled through her Instagram feed, captivated by glamorous photos of Lagos' most celebrated influencers, their lives painted in bright colors and glitzy smiles. She couldn't help but feel a pang of envy each time she saw them in their designer clothes, makeup flawlessly done, each post drawing thousands of likes and comments. Ada's own posts, however, went largely unnoticed. She felt invisible in the vast sea of Instagram fame, certain that she had what it took to rise among them if only she had the look to match. After days of contemplating how to boost her profile, Ada came to a conclusion. She needed a luxurious, head-turning human hair wig. She'd seen how those wigs elevated the look of even the simplest outfit, giving influencers an instant aura of sophistication and wealth. But with her limited budget, Ada knew it was impossible to afford such a wig. The longing gnawed at her, turning her dreams of fame into an obsession. One evening, as she vented her frustrations to her friend Amaka, Ada let slip her desperation to achieve Instagram fame. Amaka listened quietly, her gaze fixed on Ada with a strange intensity. "I have a wig you can borrow," she offered, her voice low and cryptic. "It's different, though. You might say it has a personality of its own." Ada's eyes widened in excitement, ignoring the eerie tone of Amaka's warning. She'd heard of Amaka's rare, expensive possessions before, and the idea of finally owning a coveted human hair wig, even if borrowed, thrilled her. But Amaka continued, "This wig comes with a price, and it's not just money." Ada brushed off her friend's words with a laugh, eager to see herself transformed, oblivious to what lay ahead. When Ada first placed the wig on her head, she barely recognized herself in the mirror. The luxurious hair cascaded down her shoulders, framing her face in a way that made her look like one of the elite influencers she so admired. She ran her fingers through the silky strands, marveling at the way the hair transformed her entire appearance. For the first time, she felt like she truly belonged among the ranks of the Instagram famous. The wig seemed to have a life of its own, perfectly molding to Ada's head as if it had always been meant for her. Filled with confidence, she started snapping photos, adjusting the angles and lighting until she was satisfied. She didn't think twice about Amaka's ominous words. Her mind was too consumed by the thrill of finally looking the part. Little did Ada know, the wig was beginning to weave its hold on her life in ways she could never have anticipated. As soon as Ada posted her photos online, the reaction was explosive. Within minutes, the likes and comments started pouring in. Her followers count shot up, and her phone buzzed endlessly with notifications from friends and strangers alike. "Wow, Ada, you look amazing. Who did your hair? Stunning." She was finally getting the recognition she'd craved for so long, and the rush of validation was exhilarating. People began to share her photos, and soon she found herself trending in her local circles. Her newfound popularity felt surreal yet completely intoxicating. Ada couldn't stop smiling, lost in the whirlwind of praise and admiration. In her mind, she'd finally made it. But as night fell, a strange chill settled over her. The darkness felt heavier, and shadows seemed to linger, watching her every move. Ada woke up that night to a faint whisper. Groggy, she sat up and glanced around, her heart pounding as she strained her ears. "Just a bad dream," she muttered, trying to shake off the fear. Yet, as she lay back down, the whisper came again, faint and insistent, growing louder until she could almost make out the words. The voice was soft, eerie, as if someone was standing right by her bed. Ada bolted upright, her skin crawling with fear. She felt as if she were not alone. Her hand instinctively reached up to touch the wig, which felt strangely warm against her scalp. Ada tried to shake off the unsettling feeling, dismissing it as nerves, but a lingering sense of unease crept into her heart. The next morning, Ada dismissed the unsettling incident as a side effect of her excitement. She was too eager to dive back into her Instagram fame to think much of it. As she went about her day, however, she began to notice something odd. Every time she glanced over her shoulder, it seemed as though a shadow followed her, creeping just within her line of sight. At first, she thought it was just her imagination, a trick of the light. But as the day wore on, The shadow seemed to grow more distinct, almost as if it were attached to her. The feeling of being watched made her uneasy, yet every time she reached up to remove the wig, an inexplicable sense of dread filled her, urging her to keep it on. Ada's Instagram fame only grew in the following days. Brands began to reach out to her, offering her products to promote. She basked in the adoration, feeling that all her dreams were finally coming true. But as her online presence soared, her reality began to unravel. At night, the whispers returned, louder and more persistent. Shadows seemed to move of their own accord, creeping closer to her bedside. Ada started to lose sleep, her eyes becoming hollow and rimmed with dark circles. She told herself it was just the price of success, the sacrifices she had to make to maintain her fame. But each morning, when she looked in the mirror, she found herself more drained, a hint of fear lingering behind her once bright eyes. Yet, she couldn't let go of the wig, afraid that without it, she'd return to the obscurity she so despised. One evening, as Ada posed for yet another photo, she noticed her reflection in her phone's screen. Her once vibrant face looked gaunt, her eyes haunted. She brushed it off, adjusting her posture to capture the perfect angle. But a creeping dread settled in her chest. Was this fame worth it? Her once simple desire for Instagram likes had spiraled into an insatiable need, fueled by the strange power of the wig. For the first time, she wondered what price Amaka had referred to. Ada shrugged it off, convincing herself that she was overthinking. But as she prepared for bed, the whispers returned, louder and more accusing. This time, they sounded like her own voice, filled with regret. "You wanted this," they murmured. "Now you belong to us." Desperate for answers, Ada decided to confront Amaka. She dialed her friend's number, her heart racing as she waited for her to pick up. But Amaka didn't answer. Frustrated, Ada tried several times, only to be met with silence. It was as though her friend had vanished. The isolation weighed on her, heightening her sense of unease. Days passed without any word from Amaka, and Ada's grip on reality continued to slip. The shadows grew darker, and the whispers became an unending chorus, tormenting her every waking moment. She was alone, trapped in a nightmare of her own making, and the more she tried to remove the wig, the tighter it seemed to cling to her, as if it had become a part of her very being. Determined to break free from the wig's hold, Ada sought out local priests and spiritual healers, hoping to rid herself of its curse. But each attempt only intensified her torment, the whispers growing louder, now joined by faces in her dreams, shadowy figures mocking her vanity. Ada realized the only way to escape her ordeal was to confront the truth. Her desire for fame had drawn her into a dark world where borrowed glamour came with a deadly price. Yet, despite her fear, a part of her clung to the fame, unwilling to let go of the adoration she'd finally achieved. Torn between escaping the curse and holding on to her stardom, Ada found herself at a crossroad, forced to make a choice that would forever change her life. With each passing day, the price of her vanity became clearer, pushing her toward a destiny she could no longer control. Desperate for answers, Ada started searching through Amaka's old photos on social media, hoping for clues about the wig's origin. In one picture from years ago, she noticed Amaka wearing the same wig, looking radiant but with eyes that seemed hollow and sad. It was a look Ada now recognized in herself. The caption read, "Be careful what you wish for." Unease gripped her as she realized Amaka had likely suffered the same fate she was now facing. But if Amaka had broken free from the wig's curse, maybe there was still hope for Ada. She knew she had to find Amaka, to confront her friend and uncover the truth behind the wig and its dark magic. On the advice of a friend, Ada visited a well-known spiritual healer named Baba Jide. His home was filled with mystical symbols, herbs, and charms. He listened to Ada's story in silence, his wise eyes narrowing as he examined the wig. "This wig carries the soul of a tormented spirit," he warned. "It feeds on vanity, drawing you deeper into its world until you are nothing but a shadow." Terrified, Ada pleaded with him to free her from its grip. Baba Jide explained that breaking the curse would not be easy. It required her to confront her true desires and motivations for fame. Ada left his home shaken but determined. She knew this would be a battle not only with the wig but also with herself. That night, Ada had a vivid, terrifying dream. In it, she saw herself standing alone on a stage, surrounded by people who cheered and clapped. But as she basked in their admiration, her reflection in a nearby mirror began to twist and distort, her face becoming hollow, her eyes lifeless. She woke up drenched in sweat, her heart racing. She now understood that the wig's curse wasn't just about fame. It was about stripping her of her identity, consuming her very soul. The vision filled her with dread, but it also strengthened her resolve to find Amaka and break free. As the days passed, Ada found herself increasingly trapped within the world of her dreams. The line between reality and illusion began to blur, and the whispers grew louder, turning into voices that followed her even in daylight. Friends started to notice her distant, haunted look, but Ada brushed them off, too afraid to confide in anyone. The wig now seemed permanently fixed to her head. Each time she tried to remove it, pain shot through her scalp, as though the hair had become part of her flesh. She felt trapped, unable to escape the darkness that now surrounded her every move. Desperate, Ada decided to visit Amaka's house. When she arrived, the windows were dark, and the house had a strange, abandoned air to it. A neighbor informed her that Amaka had left town abruptly, without telling anyone where she was going. Ada felt a sinking feeling in her stomach. Without Amaka's guidance, she was left to face the growing darkness alone. As she turned to leave, the neighbor handed her a letter Amaka had left behind, addressed to her. With shaking hands, Ada opened it. The letter was cryptic, hinting that Amaka had left to escape a similar fate and urging Ada to seek the origin of the wig, to understand its curse. In the letter, Amaka warned Ada of the wig's true origins, urging her to uncover the story behind it if she wanted to break free. She wrote about a haunted wig that had been passed down, carrying the spirit of a young woman named Igioma, who had once been obsessed with fame and beauty. Igioma's spirit lingered in the wig, trapping anyone who wore it, feeding off their vanity. Realizing the gravity of her situation, Ada knew she had to find out more about this Igioma. Her next step was clear. She needed to dig into the history of this mysterious, cursed wig if she was to have any hope of freedom. Ada's journey took her to a small town outside Lagos, where Igioma had once lived. Here, she met an elderly woman who remembered Igioma as a beautiful, ambitious girl who'd been obsessed with her looks. She lost herself in her pursuit of beauty, the woman said, her voice tinged with sadness. After she died, people believed her spirit lingered, trapped in the hair she valued so dearly. Horrified, Ada realized Igioma's spirit had become entangled with the wig, haunting anyone who wore it and shared her same obsession. She had unknowingly invited this vengeful spirit into her life, and now she needed to release it before it consumed her entirely. Returning home, Ada tried to follow Baba Jide's advice, confronting her own desires and obsession with fame. She began to question why she'd wanted so badly to be an influencer, what she hoped to gain from the world's validation. This journey of self-reflection was painful, forcing her to face insecurities she'd buried long ago. But as she tried to let go of her vanity, the shadows only seemed to grow stronger. It was as if the wig sensed her struggle and was fighting back, refusing to loosen its grip. Ada's desperation mounted as she realized she would need to summon every ounce of her willpower to defeat this entity. With nowhere else to turn, Ada returned to Baba Jide, begging him to perform a ritual to break the wig's hold. Baba Jide prepared a ceremony, warning her that the process would be dangerous and that she would need to be willing to sacrifice everything she had gained from the wig's influence. Ada hesitated, knowing this would mean giving up her newfound fame. But she knew she had no other choice. She would rather live a life of anonymity than lose herself completely to the curse. She nodded, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Baba Jide's ritual began at midnight, under a full moon. Surrounded by candles and herbs, Ada sat in the center of the room, the wig still firmly attached to her head. Baba Jide chanted, his voice resonating through the silence, invoking spirits and calling upon Igioma's soul. As the ritual progressed, Ada felt a powerful force pulling at her mind, tempting her to cling to the fame and vanity the wig had given her. She fought the urge, focusing on her desire for freedom. The room grew colder, and a shadowy figure appeared before her, none other than Igioma herself. In a haunting voice, Igioma's spirit spoke to Ada, recounting her own tragic tale of obsession and downfall. She confessed that she had been trapped by her own vanity and had chosen to remain within the wig, preying on others who shared her desires. "We are the same, you and I," she whispered, a hint of malice in her tone. Ada shook her head, refusing to accept this fate. She declared that she would not be controlled by vanity, that she wanted to find true purpose beyond the superficial allure of fame. Her words seemed to weaken Igioma's hold, and the shadowy figure flickered, as if struggling to maintain its form. Igioma's spirit grew more aggressive, taunting Ada, trying to break her resolve. Shadows swirled around her, and Ada felt herself being pulled into a darkness she could barely fight. But with Baba Jide's guidance, she clung to her conviction, refusing to let go of her true identity. Slowly, she could feel the wig loosening, its hold on her beginning to fade. It was a fierce battle, with Ada's will pitted against Igioma's vengeful spirit. With one final cry, Ada renounced her vanity and all that it had cost her, calling upon the strength within her to break free. With Ada's final act of defiance, Igioma's spirit released its hold. The wig fell from her head, lifeless, its once lustrous hair now dull and brittle. The curse had been broken, and Igioma's spirit dissolved, finally released from its torment. Ada felt an overwhelming sense of relief, her heart lighter than it had been in months. Baba Jide smiled, his wise eyes filled with approval. "You are free now," he said softly, "but remember the lesson you have learned. True beauty comes from within, not from what the world sees." Ada nodded, filled with gratitude and newfound wisdom. Back home, Ada deleted the photos that had once made her so famous. She unfollowed the influencers she had once idolized and started focusing on her real passions. It was a hard adjustment, but she found a sense of peace she hadn't known before. Friends noticed the change in her face now filled with a natural glow. For the first time, she wasn't worried about likes or followers. She felt content simply being herself, free from the haunting shadows of vanity and obsession. Ada returned to her roots, volunteering at a local community center, where she taught young girls about confidence, self-worth, and the dangers of seeking external validation. As Ada immersed herself in helping young girls find confidence from within, she saw a reflection of her former self in their wide eyes and hopeful smiles. She realized that she could use her experience to guide others away from the pitfalls of seeking superficial validation. The girls listened to her stories, mesmerized by her journey, and began to understand that self-worth wasn't measured by followers or likes. Ada felt a deep sense of purpose, one she had never felt in her pursuit of fame. The more she shared her story, the more she healed, leaving behind the shadows of her past. She was no longer haunted but empowered by the lessons she had learned. One evening, as Ada walked through a market in Lagos, she unexpectedly crossed paths with Amaka. Their eyes met, and Ada felt a surge of emotions, betrayal, confusion, and the faintest tinge of gratitude. She approached Amaka, confronting her about the wig and the dark path it had led her down. Amaka sighed, her face full of regret. She admitted that she, too, had once been trapped by the wig's curse but had passed it to Ada in desperation, hoping to be free. "I'm sorry, Ada," she whispered. "I should have warned you more forcefully. Vanity consumed me, just as it consumed Igioma before us." Ada realized that Amaka had suffered just as she had. In that moment, Ada forgave her, understanding that they were both victims of a greater, haunting force. They parted ways, each with the weight of a hard-earned lesson. In the weeks that followed, Ada found comfort in her closest friends, those who had stood by her even as she spiraled down the path of vanity. She apologized to them, expressing gratitude for their patience and support. Her friends embraced her, happy to see her transformation and proud of her courage to reclaim her life. The experience taught Ada the value of genuine friendship and how true friends are not impressed by appearances but care for the person beneath. She found solace in their companionship, realizing that her life was rich with meaningful relationships that didn't require followers or fame. With renewed clarity, Ada began to use her social media platform not for superficial fame, but to share empowering messages and stories that could inspire others. Her posts focused on self-love, authenticity, and the importance of inner beauty. Her follower count decreased, but she no longer cared. Those who stayed were genuinely moved by her journey and appreciated her honesty. Ada's online presence now had a purpose beyond self-promotion. She received messages from young people struggling with similar pressures, grateful for her transparency. Through this new direction, she found fulfillment, not in numbers but in the real impact she was making on others' lives. Ada's journey left her forever changed, her heart filled with gratitude for the lessons learned and the battles fought. No longer burdened by vanity or the need for validation, she embraced life as a testament to true beauty and self-worth. She became a mentor, sharing her story with others in her community and beyond, determined to help those trapped in the same illusions that had once ensnared her. Years later, Ada would be remembered not for a glamorous Instagram feed, but for the lives she touched and the lessons she shared. She left a legacy of light and empowerment, a reminder that true beauty lies in authenticity, kindness, and self-respect. Ada finally found the fulfillment she had always sought, not in the fleeting fame of social media, but in the timeless beauty of a life well lived.
Subscribe for more stories.